Welcome to the Widows Collective, where grief meets hope, healing, and community. I'm Lauren Lentz, grief coach, fellow widow, and the heart behind this space. There is life before loss, and then there is life after. If you're here, it likely means your life has been turned upside down by the death of your person. Maybe you've just found yourself in this new world that feels unrecognizable, or maybe you've been walking it for a while, trying to figure out what healing looks like now. I want you to know you are not alone. This podcast is a gathering place for widows living in the after. Together, we'll name the ache, honor the love, and share tools, truths, and stories that help you feel supported along the way. My hope is that every episode gives you a sense of community, comfort, and permission to meet yourself exactly where you are. Hello, and welcome back to episode 8, when the holidays bring out jealousy, guilt, and other heavy feelings. Before we get into this episode, I just want to share I took a couple weeks off from recording to visit with family, and it surprised me how much I missed being here with you all. There is something about this podcast that has become really meaningful to me in such a short amount of time, especially around conversations like today. Conversations many people would rather avoid that I love to get right into. And if you're a friend or a family member, you're nodding your head about now because you know that I'm not afraid of the topics that feel uncomfortable for others to talk about. In fact, I believe that the discomfort that arises in hard conversations actually holds some of the deepest opportunities for learning, healing, and expanding our emotional capacity. Real growth rarely happens in the perceived perfect, polished moments. They happen in the honest, messy human ones. And that truth carries into grief too. I want you to take a second to think back to your own childhood. Can you remember a time when expressing envy or frustration or anger was dismissed or labeled as negative or maybe even unsafe? So many of us learned early on that only certain emotions were acceptable, and anything heavy needed to be suppressed or quickly worked through. As adults, that same message often gets reinforced. Be happy, be grateful, don't be jealous. And so when those feelings inevitably show up, we think something is wrong with us. But labeling emotions as good or bad, positive or negative, actually shuts down our ability to feel the full spectrum of being human. And when grief enters, especially in widowhood, emotions like rage, resentment, abandonment, jealousy, or bitterness can surface quickly, often followed by shame. Thoughts like, I shouldn't feel this way. What's wrong with me? I'm selfish, or people won't want to be around me if I think this way. The truth is, you are not the only one feeling like this. You're not even close. The holidays have a way of amplifying everything. The first holiday card arrives or the first festive display goes up, and suddenly a wave of envy hits. Then you're instantly met with guilt for feeling the way you do, or you have apathy towards the holidays and your children or family are pushing on you to do more. And now you're shaming yourself for not feeling festive or feeling nothing at all. This season is complicated. There are so many layers. There's both personal and cultural pressure to feel joy and festivity, but when you're grieving, it's just not that simple. Jealousy, guilt, regret, anger, and longing, all of these emotions are normal. They don't make you a bad person. They don't mean you're ungrateful. they mean you're human and you're grieving someone you love deeply that was your whole world. In this episode, we're naming these emotions, normalizing them, and answering some listener questions that many of you are experiencing right now. Let's get into these questions that were submitted because I think that during this season, most of us are wrestling with these exact emotions. The first question surrounds itself around the feeling of jealousy. And this listener asked, why do I feel jealous when I see families or couples together? I hate feeling this way. And I want to say that it is a terrible feeling to feel like that. And I think that when we attach judgment to it, it just brings up guilt and shame and so many unnecessary thoughts about ourselves and our experience. And so I want to first really define jealousy inside of widowhood and then normalize this for you. So in terms of being widowed, jealousy or envy, it's really a natural response to seeing something you once had or deeply valued, like families celebrating together or couples sharing traditions. These moments that you're experiencing highlight what has been lost for you. It's not that you are wanting someone else's life. It's about being reminded that your own before lost life is no longer. And that's really, really painful. So when you see other people holding hands and families united together during this season, it's just putting salt on a very open wound for you. Feeling jealous in these moments is normal and it doesn't mean anything about you as a person. And I think we really like to attach meaning to this story that we're creating. But the thoughts that you're having around what you're seeing and those emotions that it's bringing up is only your heart and your mind and your nervous system responding to absence, not a reflection of your character. You are not all of a sudden some terrible human, some monster. So when something like this rises within you, I want to challenge you to take a moment to step away and provide yourself a gentle reframe. And it can be something like, being envious is a normal and natural response to what I'm going through. Or this hurts because I love deeply. This hurts because I miss my life. These reminders name what is happening in you softly, and it allows your feeling to exist without judgment. The next question is around the feeling of guilt. And this listener asked, I feel guilty when I'm not feeling festive. Am I letting my family and my friends down? And I cannot emphasize enough to you how many times I've had this conversation recently with clients. Guilt often appears when our grief collides with social expectations. So during the holidays, you may feel guilty for not participating, for struggling to feel joy, or even for moments where you do feel joy while also missing your partner. Neurologically speaking, guilt shows up when your brain tries to reconcile the reality of loss with the pressure that we put on ourselves and that society puts on us to appear like everything's okay and normal. Feeling guilty doesn't mean that you are failing anyone. Your emotions reflect your heart and your mind adjusting to its truth. If you feel numb or exhausted or disconnected from this season, it's just simply your body protecting you, not a sign that you're disappointing people. And if your children or your family are outwardly expressing that they are disappointed, this is a wonderful opportunity to educate. And what I mean by that is sharing with them what's going on with you and letting them know that we all grieve differently. And just because they're able to participate in the holiday traditions and the social activities and events doesn't mean that you're ready to do that yet. And I think when we have these open, honest conversations, it helps those around us empathize and recognize that this isn't a forever thing, that you can come back to it next year. And I'm going to have that conversation in another minute as well. But that, because I think what happens is our family, our friends, our social circles, they start to worry about us that, oh my gosh, they're never going to see the light again, or they're always going to feel this way. They're never going to be festive. It's very permanent to them, and that scares them. And so they're unintentionally, unconsciously trying to lift you up during this time. And so letting them know, like, hey, this is normal and it's absolutely okay for me to feel this way. I'm just not feeling festive this year. Thank you so much for your love and support during this time. It really gives them an opportunity to step back and recognize, like, oh yeah, it's okay for her to be this way in this moment. The next question is around anger and frustration. And our listener asked, is it normal to feel angry during the holidays, even at others for being happy? First, I want to take a second to unpack anger, because this isn't spoken enough about, or this isn't spoken about enough, And I think it's something that we, to be able to understand anger better, need to recognize that anger is often a secondary emotion that rises when deeper feelings like pain, sadness, or helplessness don't have room to be expressed. The holidays can really intensify those underlying emotions. So from a nervous system level, anger can heighten our tension and our irritability or our emotional sensitivity when confronted with reminders of what's missing. And so to be able to recognize that there's a lot more going on beneath your anger is going to be really helpful. So to answer your question, yes, it's normal. Anger is a signal that there are deeper emotions that need acknowledgement. It's an opportunity for you to get curious about what's behind the story you're telling yourself and why you might be angry. Understanding that the anger is grief-driven and not about people around you also allows you to meet yourself where you're at with more compassion, and not only just for yourself, but for the others as well, because it really isn't about them. It's about what we're experiencing, right? The next question is around regret and longing. And this listener asked, how do I handle holiday traditions when everything feels wrong without my person? I deeply resonate with this question. And the first year that Kevin was killed, I felt this very strongly. And I remember thinking, I don't want anything for Christmas. I don't want the lights. I don't want the trees. It's not fair that he's not here. And so recognizing that a lot of this is around survivor's guilt and feeling like you shouldn't, air quotes, be participating in the holidays when they aren't here, and recognizing that that is a belief, not a truth, and giving yourself so much love and grace for feeling that way. But also recognizing that regret or longing become stronger during this season because things like traditions and songs and rituals and scents, they tap into our memory and our emotion centers of the brain. And when that happens, it intensifies the feelings of absence and the deep yearning for what was. And this is where we can pause and recognize that two truths can coexist. It is okay to want to find a spark of joy or lean into a tradition that carries your person forward while also feeling the impossibility of it all. Both can be true. These feelings aren't signs that you're doing something wrong. They're a reflection of your love. They're a reflection of your connection to that person, and they're a reflection of your pain for them not being able to be here physically. So if you find yourself not wanting to move forward with a certain tradition this year because it just feels too tender, that's okay. I was talking to a client last week about the same thing. She and her late husband had a family tradition of going to a Christmas tree farm and cutting down the Christmas tree and bringing it back and decorating, and just there was so much excitement there. And initially, she felt like she wanted to continue that tradition this year. She wanted her children to continue to have the same routines and feelings of excitement that they had in past years. And then as December started to creep in, she started to feel really overwhelmed with the thought of going to the Christmas tree farm without him. And she started to feel really emotional about doing something this special when he wasn't here. And so we discussed, and she also discussed with her mom, that it's totally okay to not do this. It's okay to go to your local store and grab a tiny little tree and let the kids decorate and have their own form of memory making this year without forcing her to go through something that feels really activating, really triggering for her. And to acknowledge that next year is another opportunity to check in with how she's feeling, to see if maybe that's something that she wants to bring back, because it's not black or white. There's a lot of gray space inside of our grief, right? A lot of liminal space of discovering, what do we want to bring with us from the past, and what does this new life without them look like? And so to acknowledge that gives us a little bit of freedom and a little bit of breathing room to feel like, okay, this isn't an all or nothing thing. This doesn't have to be permanent, because my grief ebbs and flows, and there's no timeline. And what I don't feel ready for now doesn't mean that in the future I'm not going to be ready for. That makes sense. Also, if you find that you're called to start a new tradition, one that feels meaningful or helpful to you this season, give yourself permission to be okay with that too. That first year that I was talking about, when Kevin was killed and I didn't want to do anything, my aunt brought over the tiniest little tree for my son. And at the time, I was like, I don't want anything. And when she brought it over, it was just this bit of warmth that the house needed. And to this day, 6 years later, we still bring out that tree every single year and put it in my son's bedroom. And that was a tradition that was uniquely ours, but also honored our experience. And actually, it also allows me to reflect every single holiday season on the evolution of my own grief experience and how far we've come. So, things to consider. The last question is around duality and the feeling of mixed emotions. And this listener asked, I'm at a point where I'm excited for the holidays again, but then I'm instantly met with a thought that I shouldn't be. That if I'm not only in the sadness, it must mean something about my love for my late husband. Like, if I'm happy again, people will think he meant nothing to me, when on the inside, there will forever be a hole. How do I navigate that? I want to stop there and say, I don't know a widow who has not experienced this type of thought. If I smile again, if I appear to be enjoying something, are people going to think that I didn't love my person enough, or that I've quote unquote moved on, or that I don't need their love and their support and their guidance still, right? And so I just want to honor this, because like I mentioned, I've been sitting alongside widows, not just even as a coach, but just in my own experience for 6 years now. And I cannot tell you a time where someone that I've sat with hasn't said something like this. It is really common to experience conflicting emotions and grief. You can feel joy and sadness, excitement and longing all at the same time. This duality is your brain and your heart holding multiple truths: the love that you had, the loss you feel, and the possibility of finding moments of light simultaneously. Our brain is capable of processing these overlapping states, which I think is why mixed emotions feels really intense and confusing. And then you have this additional layer where society says that we can't feel two opposite emotions at once, which adds to this disorientation of it all. And what I mean by that is, like, you'll go on to social media and you'll see someone say, there's no way that you can have faith and fear in your life. And that's not true. But this gets plugged into what we hear on the daily in the outside world, and we start to believe it. Oh my gosh, if I'm being fearful, then there's no way that I can be hopeful. And then it kind of just feels like we're lost and adds more anxiety to the whole situation. So feeling happiness alongside sadness does not diminish your love or the depth of your loss. And mixed emotions are a natural part of life and of grieving. I say that duality will always be present in my life. I can and will be sad that Kevin doesn't get to be here forever. And I can still find meaning and purpose and joy and happiness in this present moment alongside that sadness. Reflecting both the connection you had and the reality of absence is going to create those feelings of mixed emotions. Allowing yourself to experience both without judgment honors your heart, your memories, and the fullness of your experience inside of grief. Okay, now that we've explored the emotions that surface during the holidays, let's take a moment to reflect on what it really means to actually encounter them. The reason this matters so much is because awareness is the bridge between feeling overwhelmed by your emotions and understanding them. Most widows think something is wrong with them when their emotions feel intense or contradictory or unpredictable. But that intensity isn't a sign of brokenness. It's actually our biology. It is our nervous system trying to process something that our heart and mind never asked for and still just doesn't know how to hold. When we slow down enough to notice what's happening inside of us, not fixing it, not judging it, just simply noticing that it's there, you shift from being flooded by emotions to being in relationship with them. And there's such a big difference. Awareness does a few powerful things. First, it reduces emotional overwhelm. When you name an emotion, this is guilt, this is jealousy, your brain actually calms down. It moves the experience out of the limbic system, which is the fight, flight, panic, and into the prefrontal cortex, which is the logical side of you, the self-awareness. It creates space, breathing room. You're no longer being swept under by the feeling, you're witnessing the feeling. Second, it builds emotional safety inside of yourself. Most of us have learned very early on that big feelings were too much, inconvenient, or bad. And grief blows that myth apart. Awareness helps rebuild your internal sense of safety, the part of you that knows you are capable of feeling this, you can survive this, my emotions are not dangerous. Third, it helps you understand what your grief is trying to tell you. I like to say that our feelings are messengers. Jealousy says, I miss my life. Guilt says, I care deeply about the people around me. Anger says, something inside me hurts and needs tending. Longing says, my love didn't end just because their life did. Awareness lets you hear the message without drowning in it. Fourth, it helps you set compassionate boundaries. When you're aware of your emotional limits, it becomes easier to say, I can't do that tradition this year. I need a minute to breathe. no, I'm actually not up for hosting, or I need something quieter. This isn't avoidance, it's alignment. It's choosing what's emotionally possible for you, not what is expected of you. And fifth, lastly, it strengthens connections with others who get it. When you're aware of what's happening inside of you, you can express it more clearly. That makes support feel more meaningful because you're letting others meet the real you, the one that is underneath the armor. And that's where healing happens, not by bypassing your pain, but by understanding it, witnessing it, and letting yourself be witnessed in it. As we reflect on everything we talked about today, I want to leave you with a few things to carry into this holiday season, not as pressure, but as gentle reminders that you get to return to whenever you need them. First, every single emotion you feel is valid. Numbness, hope, happiness, jealousy, guilt. None of them make you a bad person. None of them make you wrong, ungrateful, or unloving. They are human emotions responding to something unimaginably hard. You're not failing at grief. You're feeling it. You're feeling all of it. That's what love looks like in the absence of the person you wish were still here. Second, duality is a real thing. You might find yourself laughing one moment and crying the next. You might feel relief and sadness in the same breath. You might feel excitement about something new and then instantly feel guilty for feeling anything other than pain. None of this means your love is fading. I want to say that again. None of this means your love is fading. None of it means you're moving on. It means your heart is learning how to hold both the ache and the aliveness. And finally, presence matters more than perfection. You don't need to force your joy right now. You don't need to recreate old traditions. You don't need to pretend. The most meaningful thing you can offer yourself this season is a moment of awareness. This is what I'm feeling right now. It doesn't need to be polished or fixed, just noticed. That noticing is enough, I promise. Before we go, I want to speak directly to your heart for a moment. The way you show up this season, tender, tired, conflicted, hopeful, or somewhere in between, doesn't diminish your love. If anything, it reveals it. Every tear, every boundary, every moment of trying, they're all evidence of the love and the bond you still carry forward with you. You're allowed to grow even here. Grief doesn't freeze you in place. You're allowed to evolve, to change, to feel differently than you did last year. You're allowed to discover parts of yourself you didn't even know existed before loss rearranged your life. And your connection with your person, it gets to continue. Not in the exact way you wish it could, but in the way you breathe, the way you remember, the way you choose compassion for yourself on the days you need it the most. That connection didn't end, it lives in you. So as you move through these holidays, I hope you give yourself permission to be exactly who you are right now. Grieving, loving, learning, expanding, and still here. Thank you so much for listening today. And if no one has told you, I'm proud of you, and I really hope that you're proud of yourself. Until next episode, sending big hugs and lots of love. You've been listening to The Widows Collective. I'm Lauren Lentz, and it means so much to me that you spent this time here today. If you found comfort or connection in today's episode, I invite you to please subscribe, leave a rating, or share it with someone who might need a little support. You can also follow me on Instagram at I'm Sorry We're Friends and join my email list at laurenlentz.com to explore my one-to-one grief coaching, group program, retreats, and other tools designed to help widows navigate loss with understanding and guidance. I hope you'll join me next week for another conversation where we'll continue exploring grief, healing, and ways to reimagine life after loss. I'm sorry you're here, and I'm so grateful that you are. Thank you for being a part of this community. Your presence is an act of courage and self-compassion, and I'm honored to walk this path alongside you.